Hello, hello, hello. It's Monday. I'm a little late today because somebody decided to disappear for a while. I was like, really, where is he at? Yes, that's right, that's right. Al is back. And I had to find him. I found him trying to do some more stuff to you know who. Yeah, you gotta stop, leave him alone sometime. Let him rest, let him rest. That's right. They're back. They're back. Them famous props are back. They're going to help us with some stuff later on today. However, let me say, Monday Fun Day is a show. It's very it's interactive, but it's very informal. It's informal. I always say, whatever I say, apply it like lotion. If you don't want it or need it, or you don't fool with that brand, don't bother it. It's all right. But if it applies and it gets good to you, then great. You know what I'm saying? Awesome. But it's just lotion. All right. I want to put this message out there. I've been avoiding some of the things about these things because it's very close topic to my heart. It's about schools. You see, schools have a relationship similar to a parent and a child, whereas the teachers are like parental figures and the students are like vessels to fill with knowledge, like children soak up, knowledge like sponges. And a lot of times people are like, these kids, they where are they learning this from and that the other because it's written like this. The reason why I said that is because it's written like this. When thy mother and father forsake thee, there will I be in the midst. The I am, the one who spoke you into being, he'll be in the midst. So it's like when. It said when. It did not say if. So that means it was going to happen. So you have to be prepared for it and understand that you don't need anybody to teach you. God to take care of it. So when teachers refuse to teach students, God teaches them. And that's why I said a lot of times in a couple of other videos about outliers, when people are trying to measure statistically, they don't understand why this is happening. So you may not be ready to hear that or accept it, or you ready to hear it and you're like, man, it's about time somebody said it. I was wondering what's going on. A lot of students, they pray. A lot of kids, they get fed up and they pray. And God reaches us all, and they'll say, well, I don't understand this. I don't understand this. And God step right in and teach them, even though the teachers are supposed to be doing that. But a lot of teachers take it, you know, uh, like, hey, you got to get it if you can. Some teachers, because I have had a lot of wonderful teachers, and I have associates and friends, dear friends that I've known for years that are teachers, and they're awesome because they were already awesome people. So they they're awesome teachers, and people higher up in the upper echelon. I know a lot of people. So there are some really great people in these schools, and their stories need to be told. Okay. So today I'm going to use, oh, this is Leon. We never told his name. And this is Al. We're saying Al. So I'm going to use them again to help add some clarity. Okay. Okay. So sometimes teachers, they call what they call promising students. And then there's the diamond in the rough coming up on the neglected side who comes and blows the ratings out of the water when it comes to school assessments that the school really needed to reflect the level of the knowledge of their so-called promising students. And they nourish them academically to excel to do so. But it's that one that prayed. Leon's a praying bear. Hey, Sean Anthony, Leon is a praying bear. So we're going to have that, put that in there. But that promising student may have scored lower than the child who the teacher were reluctant to teach. So those teachers can't assume the credit. Everything happens for a reason. And that's why a lot of times we don't understand what outliers are. I'm not speaking against statistics, but I'm trying to explain what outliers are and why they exist. Okay. But we can't do that if we're constantly denying what what that factor was, that I believe there's a God somewhere factor. And a lot of times people say, well, what difference does that make? What difference does that make? You'll never see it because you don't want to hear it. You're not ready. And a lot of people that are ready, they're like, I knew it. I told people. And that's why I said, keep telling your story. Keep telling your testimony out there. Let people know. Because, you know, if people can't learn if you don't ever say anything. So a lot of people get discouraged and they don't want to say, they don't want to tell their little testimony. And they say, well, somebody called my little testimony. It was big to me. It was big to me. It is big and it needs to be told. And I know there's a theme this month of me saying, well, last month of me saying, go tell it, tell your testimony, tell your story, write a letter, do what you have to do to get it out there. And that, I promise you, it is a reason for that. Okay, but I'm gonna keep going. So um, God gets the credit because they did not teach that student. They reluctantly did anything with that student, and they probably don't even want to acknowledge that that student even attends the school. But God, okay, but God. A lot of those schools have seen people excel that they knew that they did not teach, and they're like studying and researching. How did that happen? How did that happen? And they're like, oh, the audacity of that child to score higher than the student that everyone nourished and swore to school that was going to be the savior of the school. Those were going to be the savior of the schools, and they were the worthwhile investment to make sure that that school received the proper funding so that the school can continue to thrive or even exist. If they lose their charter, that's a problem. And that's why a lot of schools do close because they're not performing academically, statistically. And that's a major problem. But the definition of audacity is willingness to take the bold risk. But students do not know what they should know and what they shouldn't know. So many of them have been unaware of the audacity. They're not, it's their willingness to take the bold risk out and perform to what they have been led to do. It has nothing to do with being challenging. Why are you so smart? It has nothing to do with that. It's the matter of the fact that this is just what it's just what they do, is what they're doing. It has nothing to do with anything else. They're not trying to outsmart anybody. They're not trying to make you eat pie. It's none of that. But people getting their feelings. And when people getting their feelings, that's a reflection of what you need to understand. This was what their attempt was. And when you understand that that's what their attempt was, this is why I'm telling you, go out there, write a letter, tell people what's happening so that somebody in the upper echelon will hear your story, will hear your voice to understand why there is so much conflict going on in the schools. Okay, school organizations are still trying to figure out how are students learning because there's no significant variant researchers or scientists can statistically measure, which would allow such an outlier to be measured. That being said, it's also preventing any one scientist or researcher from coming along and technically claiming that they understand, claiming that they put the understanding out there. But Leon, the question is, will there ever be a measurable study that can do that? Here's how. The answer is it doesn't currently exist. And due to the restrictions and the way the tools of measurements and all the semantics and procedures and blah, 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 it's just a hot mess. All that red tape, and meanwhile, Leon sitting there looking like, what just happened? People they tied up in red tape, they tied up in all the variants of measurements and things like that, even though they know it's a little flawed because it doesn't do everything that you need to do in order to get the message that needs to be had out there. Are there studies, methods that can get the message out there? Yes. It is called a study where people are interviewing you. And in those interviews, they get more of an understanding. And that way, your voice can definitely be heard because you're in an interview. And if you allow that interview to be broadcast. And let's face it, we're in the age now where everybody wants to be seen. You're out here, you're putting your face out here on YouTube, Facebook, all kinds of social media. If you want to do the interview, I encourage you to do the interviews, and you want to put it out there, put it, if the interviewer asks if you will put, if you were able to put that interview on social media, I don't think that there'd be a problem with that. And if they say that it'll be a problem, you put your variation of that interview out there for yourself, any way that you want to get the message out there that this is your voice. Okay. So the fact is that I just stated, is a blind faith understanding. Blind faith because you just have to believe what the Bible says, and other people in other faiths in God have said is the fact of the account for the unknown phenomenon. You see, some messages the devil don't want to get out there. Oh yeah, he wants certain messages of the truth to get out there, because a good liar is not incredible masterful at lying without telling the truth sometimes. It's a matter of trust and supporting the aspects of understanding that allow the devil to manipulate. That's the point. Not to lie all the time. But we may not be ready to hear that right now. But some people are out there like, oh man, I needed to hear that. I'm digesting everything you're saying right now. Some people you're gonna have to watch this a couple of times in order to digest that. You just got to get out your own way so you can hear what's being said and not interpret it for what you're thinking. But that's why this is a live stream. You can hit me in them comments and say, hey, is this what you're saying? Is this what you mean? And we'll converse. We'll talk about it. I'll holler at you, you holler back. Okay, anyway, numerical values are at times distracting, which have nothing to do with the objective at hand. For example, how many times did the soldiers march around the wall of Jericho? Some of y'all gonna say 7 times, right? But that's a fact that it said that they marched around the wall 7 times. But a lot of preachers, I'm not down in preachers and people who talk about it or whatever, because theologians, teachers, preachers, whatever, they'll tell you that it was 7 because that is accurate. That's an accurate numerical value. But the answer is to exhaustion. Okay, it took 7 times to become exhausted. Those soldiers were like, hey, we came here to fight. We're likely to go to lose, but at least it's better than sitting ducks for the strategically placed soldiers who got weapons up there aiming down at us from the wall. I'd rather die fighting than marching, and that was, I don't know if you read it. I read it. That was the understanding that I got from it. And it was kind of funny because, I'm feeling that. I'm like, you're right. What? I'm not gonna be trying to march around a wall while people up there aiming down at me, trying to shoot me. That's leaning to my own understanding. That's wow. That's wow. But if you later, as things reveal themselves, because when you put your faith in God, He don't have to tell you. He don't have to tell you every step. But when it's man, you got to tell me every step. So what are we doing? Okay, where's this going? Is this leading here? Well, can you show me what is going on? Don't leave me being man and thinking that I'm following you, and I'm like, nope. Is anybody seeing this? Is uh, anybody seeing this? Because yeah, we're done with that. We're done with that as a people. The Bible says that wise are younger. We're not going through that anymore. So the understanding is, how long did Job suffer? Okay, how it said. Now I know a lot of people like people always talk about Job. People always talk about Job, and they never really give a timeline for how long he suffered. That's because God trying to get people to understand a message here. And as you guessed it from the last time I said how long, it is to the point of exhaustion. God will not put more on you than you can bear, but the devil doesn't know how strong you are, how determined you are, because the devil doesn't know your heart. He can't put a numerical count on how long until you break. Wait, it'll take you know, it only takes God. I said it in a couple of videos. God knows your heart. So that's why all the labels and all the brands, none of that matters. The orthodox matters. None of that really matters. That's for us people to communicate to each other. But that has nothing to do with what God is saying that He knows about you. That's what I've said about, people saying, well, what faith they're in, what religion they practice is not about that. It's about your heart. Where's your heart? And can I see by your life that you live in that this is how you live in? Okay. So it'll take, a long time to break some people, but some people like Job, he did not break. The flesh was, he was the first. I always tell my boys when I teach them about Job, he was the first zombie, okay, because the flesh was falling from his bones and he still wasn't tired yet. That is phenomenal. That is amazing. That is unheard of, except for that one time. I don't know if anybody else has done it since, but that is an amazing accomplishment. And I wouldn't want that testimony. I know there's some people in the audience who have that testimony, and that's great. You can hit them comments and say, hey, that was me once upon a time. But we need to understand that there's no numerical value. The Bible says when you are at the age of understanding, that's when you are held accountable for that you understand, is what it's saying. And the age of understanding is not necessarily 10 years old. It's not when you hit puberty. It's not necessarily when you're 30 even. When you've had your bachelor's or master's or even a doctorate, because we've seen a lot of people who have a doctorate and a lot of people are looking at them like, uh, uh, yeah, yeah. And that's just the way it is. And it's okay because the age of understanding comes from, it shows from your heart and it shines on the outside. So yeah, you guessed it, to the point of exhaustion. But God will not put more on you than you can bear. So remember that. He could put a numerical count on how long until you break, but that changes too. That changes too, because that last battle that you had, yeah, you was about to break, and if God didn't step in, you would have broke, but it strengthened you. So now you're ready for the next battle, and that's what it's about. So the devil will stay, confused and trying to figure out how long before you break, and he'll keep testing you. And it's not that you're going through the same obstacles all the time. A lot of it is that you went there, you done that, and you've overcome it, and now you've grown from it, and you have to show that you've grown from it, and you have to now move on to the next test. That was your stumbling block. That's what a lot of people mean by that's your stepping stone. That's your stumbling block. You now stepping on to get to the next level. So everything happens for a reason, and it's all right. That's why silence is golden, because we'll sit there and we'll tell, our prayers, and we'll pray out loud and all this and that, but the devil hear you. So you can't do that. God know your heart, and he only knows that of your heart that you speak. So don't speak it out loud all the time. Only that you're ready to battle, the next test that you're ready to have. Say that, but always give your testimony, always tell your story. But a lot of times, for example, I always tell people I'm not the type of person who will talk through the things I'm going through as I'm going through them. That's for a reason. I don't need the devil to have a stick to beat me with. No, I'm struggling enough. So my silence is golden. My prayers, that's what I mean by silence. Your prayers, that's you need to keep. You don't necessarily need to vocalize that. But if you pray for somebody else, like I'll see somebody on Facebook or social media, and I'll be like, oh my God help you. God give you strength to go through whatever it is you're going through and come out successfully on the other end, stronger and better for whatever it is that you're going through. I don't need to know your details. I can see enough, okay? And that's how I do. So I only time I make a prayer vocal like that is then. But, you know, I'm not knocking whoever does it, whatever they do it. But some of y'all know about that. And a lot of it is like Who knows about that? In the place of words, we may yell, we may scream, we may shabak the power of praise, right? Y'all ain't ready. Y'all ain't ready. Shabbat is a very high praise. And a lot of times when you're going through, you don't have no words. You don't have no words. You just make declarations. That means you're claiming those things that be not as though they were. You may even openly rebuke people and things and obstacles that's in your way. And it's not that you're rebuking the people, you're rebuking that vessel's inhabitants that's got them going in the way that nobody wants to go. Yeah, nobody trying to hear all that all that pretty glamour and glitz that Al always out there trying to get you to understand. Like, look, you're not fooling me with all that wonderfulness. You're not fooling me. I see you, and we can't necessarily say that because there's a reason. There's something going on that everybody can't hear about right now. But that's why the power of your praise. That's why a lot of people they'll moan, they'll make the declarations, they openly rebuking things, and there's many ways. Don't get me started. This broadcast will go and run longer than it was expected, but don't get me started. I'm just the messenger. You got to be ready. You got to stay ready. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Okay, so uh, we're gonna talk about something else now. Everybody's coming in. Okay, so we let's talk about gold collar workers. We have traditionally been classified, you know, classifying people as blue collar, gold collar, white collar. Y'all might not have heard about gold collar. So gold collar workers have traditionally been classified as white collar workers. These individuals are highly skilled and in high demand. They're surgeons, engineers, anesthesiologists, lawyers, and airline pilots. We're not going to even talk about the airlines because it's some things going on with it. They're not securing these airline pilots, and people flights are getting canceled. I don't know if you're watching the news and why these things are going on, but that's why. Okay, so anyway, those are gold collar jobs that involves positions that have recently become essential enough for business and operations that have warranted their own new classification, and that's why they call um, new collar workers. There's some new collar workers out here who have gained knowledge through life learning, for example, like a white hat or a black hat computer hacker. Now, why did I bring that up? Because we've seen a lot of things going on with these hackings of computers and everything. So I was curious. I was doing some work and squirrel. So in that, I was like, man, I Googled, I was thinking, I was like, what? Okay, so I'm gonna get back to that. I'm gonna get back. But anyway, we're talking about an interesting trade, right? Hey, Will, we're talking about an interesting trade. So you see in sci-fi movies or TV shows how a hacker is so awesome, and for inquiring minds, curious people, uh, we might go on and Google something because everyone has a curiosity, and we all go about living. So I'm just saying, leave me alone, leave me alone. So I went on. Yeah, I don't want this smoke. So I'm just saying, hackers are real. And I went on and I had to Google. I was like, because there's no school for a hacker. Hackers don't go to school to learn how to hack. They are curious by nature, and they're like, well, man, when I did this to the computer, I got here, I got there, and you know, it's like, man, I could do that. And then they just, out of curiosity, keep doing that. Now, I know about this, and as a professional courtesy, I'm just saying, you don't want this smoke. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. We're just going to put that out there because I don't like to see people get hurt. I don't like to see, anything bad happen to people. But I'm just going to put that out there. Yeah, that needs to be said. It's professional courtesy of respect because I don't, that's just not me. That's not my character. I see you. I'm not saying anything yet, but don't keep pushing me. Anyway, I don't have to choose sides, no matter what anyone tells me or how they feel, justifying more immoral things. Like, oh, it's immoral. You should say something because you see something. I don't have to say anything that I don't want to say, because everybody's out here trying to make a living. Everybody's out here hustling. Everybody's out here trying to, do what they do. I'm not doing anything to block anybody's ability to make a living for themselves, but don't step on my toes. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so the economy we developed, it made room for all sorts of business opportunities, and some are dangerous. You know, you have to know when to move, and above all, who to leave alone. Okay, again, it's not a challenge, because I promise you, I truly don't want to have. I don't take pleasure in people getting hurt, but God's will be done. That's necessary for some people. That was a necessary point to make that I put out there. Anyway, I spoke a few times about intellectual property, but I'm gonna get on to before I get on to intellectual property, because I'm gonna tell you something about that. But I had to Google. I was like, hackers don't go to school for so what books are they reading? How are they learning this stuff? It doesn't just come out of thin air. And I Googled, like, curiosity makes me do. So I Googled and I said, what are hackers' favorite books? What are they favorite books? And in the top four, I kid you not, in the top four was this book. Let me see if I can get it was this book, CISSP. I was just studying for my certification. I wasn't trying to be a hacker or anything like that, but I wasn't broadcasting, that's what I was doing or whatever. I move in silence. I pray and I move in silence. And a lot of the things that I do, I'm not, broadcasting, because I'm not asking anybody for permission, approval, or agreement. That's what prayer is for, in my opinion. That's just how I live my life. But it was really funny to me, and I cried, laughed, and it was hysterical, because you don't purchase these books because you're trying to do a particular thing. You purchase these books because you're trying to get somewhere. You're trying to better your life. You're trying to improve things. You're trying to become knowledgeable. And without the proper guidance, that's the thing. That's why people are good-hearted people. They're trying to be properly guided, and that's why these videos are out here, because we're trying to promote proper guidance, because without that, somebody will be curious. They'll get on a computer and learn some stuff, and they don't even know that it's wrong until they make the mistake. So we should have a school for hackers. I'm just saying, I was gonna put that out there, just like I put a couple other petitions out there. But I'm just saying. Anyway, let's circle back. Uh, I spoke a few times about intellectual property, especially on the last episode. Knowledge hiding is now a big deal in the research community for students that's researching it. Even though in some cultures, knowledge hiding and coveting knowledge is an ancient history. So maybe watch some of those videos my husband puts out there on history, so you can make the connections of past to present and see yourself and where you're going compared to where you want to be. I'm just saying, anyway. Penalties for stealing intellectual property varies depending on the severity of the crime. Yes, it is a crime. Basically, how bad is it? Do you know who sets the price for things? How much things cost? The consumer does. We, the people. Because when we buy things, for example, we go to the store, we see something priced high, and some people say, wait, because they know that the cost will go down. Meanwhile, others be like, oh, I gotta have it. I gotta have it now. I cannot wait. They might not sell it again. It's seasonal. They may have whatever excuse they have. They gotta have it. They just justify the cost being too high. And in doing so, they set the cost. So when they stop buying at the set price, the price changes. So the value also changes. See, the cost of something is set by the one who values the thing. When people no longer value a thing enough for the manufacturer to make the desirable profit, they stop making that thing. Did you know intellectual property theft penalties start from a fine of $250,000 or 3 years in prison? And it can range up to $5 million fine and 20 years in prison. Well, that's in Pittsburgh. But did I get your attention? Your intellectual property is worth something. And I spoke on the videos of what that, how to do that, how to protect yourself. So I hope that you're watching these recordings. And for those who are watching these recordings, now you see why I keep trying to get it out there. Protect your intellectual property because it's worth something. And how much is it worth? How much do you value it? Okay. Now, now you see your intellectual property is worth protecting. Uh, did somebody say reparations? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just saying. It's the 4th of July. I know that's come up, especially since Juneteenth. We started to understand. Um, are you watching my husband videos, making the connections to justify the ask? I'm not saying only watch to justify demanding reparations or transgressions of our sin, or for transgressions to our ancestors and our descendants who are sure to be judged for the slightest tint of the darkness in their skin or the curl of their hair. But stop denying things that happen and keeping your foot on the necks of the very essential workers you need who have built this foundation our blood is constantly spilled on, that's rising up to the I am crying out like it once did when Cain killed his brother Abel. I joke to remember. It's a mnemonic. That means it's something to help me to remember. One brother can do well, but the other brother is able to of better. So Cain killed Abel. You can, which that and can kills Abel. Okay, so I know that's just my little thing that I do to help me remember stuff. But you can always use mnemonics to help you to remember who did what to who. And I'm terrible with names, so I always use that joke. But anyway, I don't you know I don't I don't digress for no reason. A lot of people, the people that raised me, they were old school. So, they'd be telling you one thing and it seems like they're going off on tangents, digressing, meaning they veered a little too left from the conversation at hand. But it's not a tangent, it's not a digression, it's giving information at the time that it's needed. And then it may trigger, a lot of elders, it triggered a memory for them, and they'll take a moment to pause to remember and enjoy that memory for just a moment. Okay, so I need to say that. Some people, they don't understand. I was raised by older people, knowledgeable people. But anyway, Einstein was said to be too stupid to attend traditional school. So his mother took him home and homeschooled him. A lot of people are mad about this homeschooling epidemic. Actually, it's more of a pandemic. But anyway, a lot of people are home, but they're not necessarily homeschooling. They're just at home while their children are learning from home. But anyway, so if someone calls you stupid because you see things differently, laugh. If someone questions homeschooling, roll on the floor crying, laughing, shake your head. Some people just cannot fit into a box. Einstein didn't fit into a box. It's not that they're trying not to fit or they don't want to fit. They just don't fit. Like the kids who are a lot of the teachers aren't teaching because they're not the promising student, but they still excel academically. It's not necessarily that the child is trying to do that. Einstein, he wasn't trying to be a baby genius. Like baby Jesus. He wasn't trying to be a baby genius. It's just that's who he was. That's what he did. He saw things differently, and he just did not fit in the box. But yet that box remains, and everybody's trying to stuff folks in it like it's a clown car. They expected all these people to just pop up out this car, and they always surprised. You know, I don't agree with the box. I don't agree with systems when they show you that these systems aren't working. and you continue on because you're like, well, we don't want to get rid of it. Well, you got rid of Jesus, you got rid of the Bible, you got rid of prayer in school. Now that you see that this ain't working, but you still want to keep it, come on now, something ain't right, something ain't right. You gotta, like that monkey Dono Mike talked about. This monkey stepped, they stepped on his foot. That monkey screamed. Look, I'm just saying, you gotta say, if you taking all this out and it didn't work, well, guess what? It wasn't this bad before you took prayer out of school, before you took the Bible out of school, before you took baby Jesus out of the, out of the Sunday school lesson, you know, it's worse. So let's put it back. Let's put it back. And because what we replaced it with, it's just not working. It's just not working. That's why I don't talk about it much, because my perspectives may be really controversial. And it's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. We military. We fought for people to have a individual voice. So I'm putting mine out there. That's all I'm saying. Have you ever seen a pretty girl try to be a working girl, or a kid put on a suit and try to go to daddy's corporate office and sit in the head of the table? They didn't fit, but they might eventually, or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll grow up and they'll fit into the seat just because they were conditioned for the spot. Look, just for fun, you know, I'm just saying, it, a lot of people, imagine that. I'm just saying, some of them kids, they grow up and they say, just because I was conditioned for this seat, don't mean I'm gonna sit in this seat, and it don't mean I'm gonna take on my daddy's job. It don't mean I'm gonna take my mother's position. I'm gonna do things differently my way. And a lot of times they don't take that seat, they don't accept that seat because they're like, I am not going to um do exactly what my parents did. I'm not going to be guided by what someone else is saying. I'm not going to do what other people want me to do. And I say kudos to you. Do your way. And if you don't fit in the box and people keep trying to stuff you in that box, you stick out your toe. You stick out and you run. You don't have to stay in that position, because trying to stay somewhere where you don't fit, it can make you go to dark places. And those are the dark places that we're trying to avoid. Okay, so I'm just saying, so people will understand you're not the only one. You're not the only one. We're all out here. Sometimes people just don't say nothing, and that's what we need. We need people that's saying something, you know. But as time changes, so there's options, So stay on top of it. Now it's cool to watch TV, but I'm gonna, need to binge watch TV so I can get back into reading and researching, because some of this stuff is really interesting and it's difficult to put down. I was reading one book, it led to reading another book, and then you get curious, like squirrel, and now you're looking into a whole world of other things, like the CISSP book that I was reading, and then that book led to another. Actually, that's not where I started. I started reading a different book just to refamiliarize myself. I had studied computers and computer programming, and I just wanted to see, where are we now, where are we going, and all that sort of thing. And so I started to read various books, and I was like, what? And that curiosity, one book led to another, which led to another. And that's how I ended up trying to study for the CISSP certification. And I highly recommend you trying to do that and better yourself. Even if you don't go and get the certification, they have various books. This is one of them. I strongly recommend going. I got this off Amazon. You could get this off Amazon. You could go to your local bookstore and just get books on things that professions and things that you want to see. You don't have to go to school for these things. A lot of these things come from certifications and trade school, and you don't necessarily have to go to trade school in order to learn the trade. See, that's what I'm talking about. Hackers. They don't go to school for that. And they are better than some of the people that get paid, because those people are being guided. Those people are being put into a box and they're being told, you can't do this and you can't do that. But that's why they named them hackers. They call them hackers. And then they say, well, there's the black hats and there's the white hats. But some people can be a black hat for a good cause. So of course, the black hat is the bad guy, the white hat is supposed to be the good guy. But everybody still has the same knowledge. But what they're doing with it, like I said, it's not about how much time you got, it's what you do with your time that you have. So it's not about how much knowledge you have, it's what you do with the knowledge that you have. So some of us can get paid a lot of money on the side, giving a little hint to what this is and that is, while at the same time balancing it out with people, because people in higher places and people who are, into, various things. And they, like, for example, government workers, they can't, you know, they can't necessarily be called a hacker because they're a government employee. But the government needs people to know these things, because right now we're under attack, uh, virtually, with these hackers who are hacking for the good of their country, the good of whoever it is that's paying them. So, but we're calling them hackers because on this side it's hurting us. So that's why I'm saying, you got to look at, you got to study and keep learning. And the word does say, study to show yourself approving, with all that getting understanding. So I'm just saying, look, I'm from Chicago, and to survive, I had to be street smart and prayerful. I'm always working to on computers for professional or business reasons, and I continue to have those street smarts as it applies to computer intelligence survival skills. And we are seeing that a lot now, that we have to be more masterful with these things, and we have to be able to see. A lot of people say, well, don't the government see how these hackers are coming in? You can't Sometimes you can't see it because they're really good at hiding their hand. That's why it does take for you to keep honing in your skills so you can see the hand, even though it's like somebody that do your hair. Like, I know where you got your haircut at. A lot of guys, they'll look at somebody get a haircut. I know where you got your haircut at. You got your haircut at home because somebody chopped you up. And then they'll say, no, I paid. I went to such and such spot to get it. Oh, I know who cut you. They robbed you. Go get your money back. Just like women, they'll say, "Oh, who did your hair? I know you did it because it looked like you did it." So you know who is doing what. Same thing in the computer world. You know who's doing what, and it's difficult for them to hide their hand. But they justify for whatever reason they justify in it. But you have to set perimeters. You got to set the bridge up, like you put them cones out there when it's snowing, and you put them cones out there. You say, "Hey, this is my spot. Don't drive in my spot. Don't park in my spot. I cleaned this spot out. This is my spot." So I'm just saying, make sure you understand. I see you. I know I know what's going on. I'm not oblivious to it. But oftentimes people do not know what they're doing. That's curiosity leads to, because they just looking at something. There's no hacker school or college, so people just learning and error in that respect. So let's see what the comments. Somebody saying something in the comments. The Erudition never exists to me. No. Oh wow, what? Um, oh my goodness. I don't know what that's about, but we don't get into all of that. So what you need to do is you need to try a little bit harder to pay attention to what I'm saying. As I don't deal with that. You don't know me. You don't know what's going on. And what you need to understand is anything that I put out there, you can see this is about unity, acceptance of reality, and what we're doing is promoting guided perspective. So whatever's going on, Cosmic Kitty, I'm pretty sure that you know you may have a misunderstanding, but don't put my name in it. What did we learn watching the award show? Keep my name out your mouth. So what are you saying? I don't know who this is, but anyway, oftentimes, oh, I don't get into all of that. Uh, I'm as a matter of fact, I'm not going to even read these comments because I don't know what you're saying. I don't know who you are. But anyway, I use prompts to show why people should understand placebo last time. So a placebo is when you have a you're in a study, and I encourage you guys to go into a study and participate so we can learn as researchers, as scientists, as what do you call it, practitioners. And practitioner, if you get a doctor and they say, well, that doctor is a practitioner, that's not a doctor, that's not a doctor, I want a real doctor. Come on now, people are learning, they got to learn some way, right? So that's how they learn. They call practitioner. Practitioner means they are practicing doctor or practicing in their field. So anyway, I'll use Al. Let's find out. Remember, he said, let's find out. You can't do that because it's unethical and they don't know what would happen to you. So they rarely admit they're not, forthcoming with saying, I don't know. Because who's going to participate in a study when the person who's doing the studying tells you, I don't know what this medicine is going to do. They can tell you what they think the medicine is going to do, but they don't know what it's going to do. That's why they have to use a placebo in the research. So it's not that they're trying to fool you, it's that they're saying, hey, we don't know, and you have to sign a waiver, you have to sign consent forms and things like that in order to participate in a survey or a study where they're going to use placebos in order to see what works. And innocent Teddy here approaches Al with a problem. Al says he gets the placebo. Teddy is sad, he gets the placebo. Real help ended up killing others, but now everyone knows that that was not help. That help was wrong. That was ethical because people gave their permission. And when a lot of times they don't really understand. So then Bear comes back and he's like, "Oh, I'm so happy that I'm okay because they didn't get the real medicine, but he's a praying bear. He's a praying bear. And God does everything for a reason." And you was like, well, I need to help advance, medicine. I need to help researchers to know what's real and what's not and what's going on. And a lot of times we say things like, I don't want to participate, but we don't know how we're not helping to solve the problem. Because what we see is when you're a praying bear, it works out for your good. And it worked out for his good. And it was ethical because everyone gave permission. Now, I can't kill, my Teddy in this scenario when I already took his lollipop and his money and for Bitcoin that never matured. So he had to move back home with all his family in one house in other episodes that we did. So that's the understanding you should have when it comes to placebos and participating in studies that will require for somebody to have the placebo. Because again, they don't know what it's going to do, but they have a hunch. And once we find out, then it's no longer, a problem. Now we can move forward with, yes, this is what this does. This is how, these are the side effects. This is what you're risking if you should take this medicine or if you should take this, whatever it is. That's how they find those things out. Now, when I was a little girl, my mama gave me this teddy bear, so that's why he's here, and he's gonna stay here. He is such a helpful bear. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people they're afraid to, you know, participate in these studies because they'll get the placebo. And in this scenario, I tried to show you why it's not always a bad thing to be the one who gets the placebo, meaning you didn't get anything but a sugar pill and everybody else got the real medicine. That's not always a bad thing. Sometimes, you know, it'll be like, oh, well, you were the one that didn't get the real medicine, but God will help you to hold on so that when they figure out that this was the right help, it's just in enough time to help you so that it can medicate you. But again, faith plays a big role in a lot of things. Just like I was telling people in various studies that take place. It's about trust. It's about faith. We in the last episode that I showed you guys, there was a study that took place where it showed that yes, faith plays a major role in healing, and those other episodes that I showed where that you believe is what you can manifest. The word says that a man believeth, so is he. It means that when you believe something, you can manifest that belief into a tangible thing. And a lot of people, and I said in that episode, you wonder how can you make something that's not tangible tangible? Because the power of the brain is something that researchers are still trying to figure out. We still, as long as we've been studying the brain, have not figured out how it really works and why that works. But I want to show you something. Um, I, it's one of the studies I was trying to tell you about. This study is showing, because I'm always talking about various studies, and be encouraged to find out as much as you can about a study and consider participating to advance true understanding. This particular place where you can find some studies is shown right here on the screen. It uses a lens to research business markets, relationships, and networks, tensions, challenges, and possibilities. So, what does that mean? That means that there's a lot of studies that's going on, and I'm trying to encourage you guys to go back to these places of business where you used to work. And don't think of it as, oh, I don't work there no more, it's water under the bridge, whatever. Go back, tell, report, say what it is. Don't just go on social media and be mad, and vent. Go and tell your story and tell people this is what happened to me at this company. This and you can on their site, you can say the name of the person. Say the first and last name, and if they got a middle initial, put that in there too. Tell who did what and how it happened. And if you have any evidence at all, and a lot of people do have evidence, and if you have any friends that's understudies or somebody studying law or anything like that, you got different friends. I encourage you to make those friends and keep those friends and get advice from them every so often so that you can understand what's considered evidence and what's considered supportive evidence that can be used so that it can help your case and your situation. So in on the site where the business that you're complaining about to them, when you're complaining to them, what you can do is you can put the names of whoever the supervisor was and don't stop at, oh well, we're rich, we are going to retrain these people and whatever. Don't That's not where it ends, because you need to keep telling, because there are people in the upper echelon that still don't know, because they'll just, okay, well, that person is no longer with us, they decided to pursue other adventures, other endeavors, or whatever they may tell you. Don't stop there. Keep taking it up the chain of command and letting it be known, this is why you quit that job. This is why you're no longer a teacher. I've seen so many videos where a lot of people are definitely telling why they don't want to teach anymore, why this is a problem, why this and that. But you have to understand, without you going out here and participating in these studies, they don't know the possibilities. They only have hunches. And then they have to go back and do another study and another study, when all you really need to do is that interview that you're providing social media, provide that for a study. And in that study, tell your testimony, because really, we all want to see change take place faster than what it has been taking place. And that is what I've been saying in so many videos. We see that change is very slow to come. Why is it slow? Why is it this? Because gonna have to rewind. There's measurements that people have to validate that will measure what it is we're saying we want them to measure to justify our claim that this is happening. We cannot do that without your voice. And your voice has to be told in the right place. You have to go onto their business site and tell, and go up the chain of command. You could go online and Google who is the business owner of this company, who is the CEO, who is the president, who is it that I need to talk to. Send a letter to all of them. Get their email. Go. Everybody has a way to be contacted. Go and tell. You might just find that a lot of these people are very nice, and they'll point you in the right direction, and they'll tell you, I am so sorry. They're genuinely sorry. And they'll tell you, I didn't know that that was going on. I'm going to take care of it. What do you want to see happen? What do you want to see get done since you're no longer working for the company? What would you like to see happen? And you tell them, don't be sarcastic and say, well, you should know what to do and blah. Don't do that. Don't be in your feelings. Tell them, because there's some people out there that legitimately do not know. They don't understand what's going on. They're not aware, because everything's so compartmentalized, where the sales team, they have a whole operation going as if it's a whole business under one umbrella, one name, one building, in one building. Meanwhile, the sales team, they don't know what the managing team, what they thinking, what they're saying, and how they're feeling, and the emotions that they in, and how they get in their feelings. And then you have the managerial team. They don't know what anybody else is thinking, and anybody else is feeling, what they said. Then you have the CEOs and the presidents of the company. Nobody knows what anybody else is seeing, what they're experiencing, what they're hearing, and how they're dealing with it, and their coping mechanisms for doing whatever it takes. Now, I'm going to say Google is pretty good at it, though. I'm just saying they're pretty good. Their business model is freaking awesome, okay? And they need to get that out there and brand it, and make everybody do that particular thing, conduct business in that manner, because it is very successful. It is thriving. And that's a place that everybody wants to work for, and everybody wants to be there, because their voices are being heard, their testimonies are being heard, and they're it's not compartmentalized, where a layperson can't reach the CEO, the president, the VP, and even other people that's a part of the community of that business, that a lot of people are not familiar with, that they don't talk about. And then people are out here like, well, what do I invest in? What do I invest in? And then you invest in something by word of mouth, and then you don't understand what happened to your investment. You don't understand what happened to your investment, because what you don't realize is everything is so compartmentalized. There is no communication. It's like your body doesn't work, it doesn't function without the vessels, the blood vessels, being able to push blood throughout the entire body. And if it can't push blood throughout the entire body, something's going to die off. That's like, people have diabetes, and the blood doesn't function all the way down to their feet, to their toes. And then they got to get some toes cut off. Then they got to get the foot amputated. Then they have to get the leg amputated. So, same thing with businesses. A lot of businesses do not know, and they don't know why they have to cut particular departments, and later turn around and grow that department again, because everybody wants to quit the job, because they're not necessarily, working the way they should. They're overworking them. Nobody knows. This is my point. You have to go and tell, because nobody knows, and all the possibilities that happen, and all the consequences that transpire, because they don't know. This is why. So that's why you may invest in something, and you'll be like, well, what happened to my investment? Why is it that I invest my little money, all I had, and then for whatever reason the company fails? It was already failing. That's why the stocks, options, and things were open to you in the first place, or they were just starting up, and they didn't know how to, work it anyway. So that's why your money went away, and your little money goes away faster than bigger money. So this is what I'm saying. Tell your reluctance to tell, because you don't understand what it means, why it matters. Your reluctance to tell is the reason why, we're slow to change. We're slow to change because a lot of people, they don't know who to tell, how to tell, and when to tell. Tell all the time until you see change. Until you see the change happen across the board, not just for you, until you see the change happen that you desire to see, that you know is beneficial for the whole, not just you. Keep telling the story, so that when it happens to somebody else, you're not sitting there like, oh well, I knew but I didn't say nothing. For example, and I have to go after this, but a lot of women, they go through a lot of things, and they're sexually harassed, they're vulnerable all the time, and they're like, well, I don't want to say anything because I don't want anybody to know I was taken advantage of, or I don't want anybody to know this. So they end up in that same situation, but it's another person. It's another person that's in that same situation, like we're seeing with the Olympics, where these young ladies didn't feel like they should say anything, and then it happened to another person, because they didn't know any better than to say something. And then when they did say something, nobody cared, nobody did anything, so they had to keep fighting. And it kept taking it up to the chain of command, to the FBI. And even then, when the FBI, turned their backs on them, the FBI is now, accountable for that. And those people, it's not about the change for Simone and all of those young people who finally pressed and kept pressing, and it rehashed, old feelings and hard, trials that they had to overcome. But it was a purpose for the whole, and it will provide the necessary changes so that the people that's coming up behind those young ladies won't have to have those experiences. This is why we need to tell our stories. This is why we need to participate in these studies. This is why I keep putting these videos out there to go tell. Go write your story, go tell your testimony, get on social media and tell it like you've been doing, but tell it in the right place. You saying it on social media, and that's great. But participate in some of these studies and tell it in these interviews of the study. Tell the person who's researching, tell them, I have a testimony and I want my interview to be broadcasted for the purpose of this study. And that in doing so, you will help make so many changes that were slow to come before. You will help expedite it. It'll start to happen far faster because you are telling your story where it's counting. Where does it count? Put it on social media, but participate in these studies and tell in the study, I want to tell my story. Interview me and put my story in the study so that the scholarly authors and all these peer reviewed studies that need to take place and all of these doctors that are in charge of the desired changes that we want to see, they can then make it and they can validate these new tools of measurement. They can validate the changes that you want to see happening right now to happen right now. But as it stands right now, it's slow because there's not enough participation. So go tell. Don't be ashamed of what happened to you because it's not your fault. It's the company who it happened to you under. So if that company is accountable, they can't resolve anything that they don't know about. So you have to keep taking it up the chain of command. Don't stop at one person. Don't stop until you get to the top. Keep complaining till you get to the top. And once you get to the top, go back. Go back and make sure that what they said they were going to change actually changed. All right, that's my time for today. I know that was a lot of different things to tie in, but like I said, I always go back and review past episodes and fill in the gaps in the following episode to tie it all together so you can have a clear and proper understanding of what I'm saying so you don't get me twisted. And like I said, I don't. It's one love, and you go back on my Facebook page, anywhere you know me from, go back, look at it. It's all one love. And we don't do he say she say. I always keep evidence. I don't fool with that. You won't be he say she saying me. And all in a modern time that we in right now, where everybody recording everything and everybody's writing everything, and you won't catch me up. So you can say whatever you want to say, but like lawyers say, it's not about what's true. It's about what you can prove. And that's why it is of utmost importance to keep all your evidence, all your whatever it is that happened. Keep a record. Keep a record. It's going to come back and it's going to be your saving grace in the end. And I promise you, God is definitely the factor that will make these things tie together so well and it'll work out for your good. But you have to put in some work too because faith without works is dead. So you have to put in the work. And He doesn't want people who don't have that holy boldness that going to go out there and tell their testimony. You won't get that blessing that you're looking for unless you tell it. So go tell it. You have to tell it because God don't do things in a vacuum and you don't do it in the closet. You could go in the closet and pray, but you still got to tell your testimony. And that's why you go through tests to tell the testimony. So stay encouraged, keep your head up. And remember, above all, try your best and God will work it out for your good. Whatever faith you practice, whatever religion, whatever the way you do what you do, it's all about your heart. God see it, God know it, and He's going to turn it for your good. So y'all stay encouraged and enjoy these holiday moments. because no matter how you, whatever way you call it, guess what it is? It's time off. Okay? So take that time off and enjoy yourself. How do I enjoy myself every day? I relax and watch all of my fish and all the fish tanks and different rooms that I have. I'm a relaxed baby. You're not gonna stress me to death. You're not gonna take my joy. The world didn't give it, and what? The world can't take it away. Y'all have a good day.